Hi, I'm Dr. Asha Priyanka. I'm the author of Medi study course Mind Map book for public health dentistry, and I like to teach public health the way I wish I was taught. Very simple, structured, and without all the frills about it. So let's get started. The topic today is Indian Dental Association, or the IDA. By the end of this video, I don't want you to just remember IDA. I want you to understand it so well that even exam pressure can't shake it. And that's how we're going to learn public health from now onwards also. So let me start with a story before we touch any textbook line, okay? Imagine a big Indian family. Everybody's working hard, everybody's qualified, but there is no elder, no spokesperson. There's nobody to talk to the outsiders on behalf of the family. That's exactly how dentistry once was in India. Dentists were there, patients were also there, and work was also happening. But dentists were very isolated. They were all individuals. They were not a united they were not a united profession. There was no one to really stand bridge between them and the government. There was nobody to protect their professional dignity or to guide them for the ethics of the profession. There was also nobody to bring dentists together into one identity. So dentistry was like one big family with a lot of talent, but no voice. That missing voice is why the Indian Dental Association was born. And if you remember this feeling now, you'll never forget what IDA actually does. So let's try and set a timeline for the origin and history. We'll try and think of it something like a movie. Now, every good story or a movie has a prequel, and ours starts way before independence in 1928. Dentists started feeling this isolation. So they formed the body called All India Dental Association. Think of this as the first group chat of Indian dentists. It was not perfect, but it was necessary, right? No? Now, after independence, the profession needed something stronger, something more national, more permanent. So in 1949, the Indian Dental Association was formally established. Now, one key word or key name you should remember here is Dr. Rafiuddin Ahmed. He played a major role in organizing dentists at a very national level. Now, we want to pause here because this is where exams like to trick you. IDA is not formed by any act of the parliament, so it's not any statutory body, and it's not something that regulates also. I like to tell my students this. If something is not created by law, it can't enforce law also. IDA is just a professional organization. It is also a representative body and a voluntary organization. Now, what is the role of this family elder in this house of ours? In our family analogy, again, IDA is not a police or a court or a licensing office. It is one respected elder. So it's just a national professional organization and which represents the body of dentists, and it's also a voluntary association. It is not a statutory authority, not a regulatory body, and not a licensing authority. I'm emphasizing on this because this is very well exam friendly, exam oriented. The IDA doesn't register any dentists. It doesn't cancel licenses, or it doesn't control any dental colleges also. For that, we have our DCI and we have our Dentist Act and other associations and other topics which we will be speaking about in the later videos. So what is the strength of IDA? It's not in the power of it. The strength of IDA is its representation. It's the ethics that it teaches the dentists. It's also the education and the unity it brings amongst the dentists. You need to remember this contrast because it's very exam-liked. Now let's come to see some objectives of the Indian Dental Association. Why does this body exist? Let's try and understand IDA's objectives like pillars holding a building. We know that the pillars that hold a building are what gives it its foundation. So the objectives here are also what form the foundation of the Indian Dental Association altogether. In this, the first is promoting oral health awareness. In this, the first is promotion of oral health. Now, IDA doesn't work only for dentists. It works for the entire society. How? Through public awareness programs and through prevention focused campaigns. Through this, IDA becomes a public health partner and not just some professional club. And this is why IDA is also relevant in today's date and also in important research papers and research communities also. The next pillar, or so to say, is advancement in dental education and science. Dentistry keeps changing. Materials change, the protocols change. So we need some place where all this can be held together and taught to us. The IDA ensures that dentists don't remain outdated. And how do they do this? By promoting research. They also encourage a lot of evidence-based practices, and they create academic platforms also. This keeps the profession scientifically alive. The next pillar is maintenance of ethics and professional dignity. This is one of the most tested concepts, even in the exam. The IDA does not punish any dentist. It holds no authority to do so, but it guides us dentists. Think of IDA as a moral compass. They promote ethical practice, they promote professional honor, and they remind dentists basically of all their responsibilities. So when students ask me who tells the dentists what is right and what is wrong, the answer is often IDA, not the law. The next pillar is protection of dentists' rights. When policies are there to affect dentists, someone has to speak about it. So in this way, the IDA will be the representative body that will go in front of governments. It will also raise any professional concerns are there, it will raise that. And also, if there's any issues that are affecting people's practices, dentists' practices, the IDA will go and negotiate in between. We should remember here that the IDA speaks for the dentists but not against the patients. So it's a very positive way. There's no like a negative discounting on how patients behave and what that goes into. It's just a professional body that tells dentists, let's do this practice can go well when you do this. In that way, it'll guide us. The next pillar is continuing dental education, or as we call it in colleges, CD programs. We know that dentistry can't live on old notes. There's a lot of new things that come out, there's a lot of new research that comes out, and we need to be updated. We can't stay outdated in this. One huge example we can talk about here is amalgam. Over the years, amalgam restorations have been, through research, they have been now, we don't use amalgam restorations anymore, we use composites. So the fact that amalgam restorations cause harm and the fact that there are newer, more better materials such as composite, these things are all told to every dentist available by organizations like IDA. And how does IDA do this? These CD programs? Through conferences, through workshops, and through lectures, webinars. So basically this keeps the learning continuous even after graduation. And you know what? This is exactly why I insist that you don't struggle alone with public health. Somebody has already organized it for you. You just need the right guidance. And I am attempting to do that. I hope most of you are following me with your mind map books open. You can write down, you can make notes. But if you're not and you want to purchase the book, it's available on Amazon, on Flipkart, on Dental Cart, and our website also. Now let's go to the functions and activities. So how does IDA put all these objectives that we've just learned about, how do they put it into action? So the IDA puts these objectives into action through things like academic activities. So they have some state and national level conferences or any scientific sessions or seminars or workshops. And the learning now, it never stops here. Also, there are some publications that they tend to. IDA publishes in a journal called the Journal of Indian Dental Association, or JIDA. They have some newsletters and magazines, and they also have some patient education material. All this is available on their website. If you're a practitioner or if you're a student, you can go and you can subscribe, you can make it yours as well. These publications, what they do is they spread the science and what the ethics is, and also they spread a lot of awareness. When I simplify public health for you, this is the same philosophy. I want to filter, structure, and make it more readable. So this is what the IDA does also. The Indian Dental Association also has a lot of public health initiatives. So they actively participate in oral health camps or school dental programs or any rural outreach programs. This connects dentistry to community service and not just stick to clinical practice. Then comes the advocacy and representation that the IDA brings. To understand it better, we can say that the IDA will act like a bridge between the dentist and the government, and between the profession and the policy that is there. If it basically gives dentists a seat at the table without even any legal power. Coming to the structure of IDA, it follows a 3-tier system. So from the top to the bottom, first is the head office. This is the national coordination and the central administration part. Next come the state branches and then the local branches. The state branches will govern the state level programs, and local branches will see the district or city level programs. And this local branches are what are closest to practicing dentists. The golden rule here to remember is local branches are governed by the state branches and the state branches are governed by the national branches. You have never reversed this in the exams. There are also some special wings that make the IDA more inclusive. They have dedicated wings for women, for students, and for public health. What this does is basically it ensures that if there's any specific needs for those people, then we can focus on that through these wings. Now let's come to the membership. Who can belong to this family? Let's put it into this. We can remember the members by a small mnemonic. There are 6 group of members, and we can remember it through the mnemonic sad life, yet I'm honored. So in this, the S will be student members. For this, the undergraduates from any recognized dental institution can apply for this. Then the A will stand for annual members, for practitioners who pay any annual subscriptions. The next A is affiliate members, and this is for non-residential practitioners, and this is attached only to the head office. Basically, affiliate means what? Associated with. So these are dentists who don't live here and don't practice here, but they're associated with practice. The D in our mnemonic stands for direct members. For those who don't reside here or practice in this area or in a local or near a local branch. These members are associated with state or central headquarters. The L in our mnemonic stands for lifetime members. These are practitioners or dentists who pay lifetime subscription fees. And the next is honorary members. That's the H in our mnemonic. This is for high scientific contributions. The dentists who have given some very high scientific research, who have presented these, they will get this honorary membership from the IDA. Now coming to the eligibility, who's qualified? Obviously you must be a qualified dentist, and also you must be registered under the Dentist Act. What this does is basically it ensures professionalism but also accountability. Now let's try and understand the role of IDA. Why does it still matter? So we understood that it does not regulate, it does not punish, it does not give out any licenses either. But yet, without the IDA, dentists, they lose the unity. We lose ethical guidance. So, dentists are weak in that way. And we also lose the professional voice. That voice disappears. The voice that can speak on our behalf to, say, the government on our needs and what our wants are. So we lose that voice without an organization like this. The IDA gives dentists identity. It's not that it gives it authority, it gives it a lot of identity and unity. So for the exams, think of IDA like this. These are the words you have to remember. EERP. First, E is for ethics. Next, education. R for representation, and P for public health. Let's just rapidly recall what all we have known over the important points. When was the IDA formed? It was formed in 1949. When did it originate? It originated from the All India Dental Association in 1928. Next, we know that it's not a statutory body, and also it publishes in the Journal of Indian Dental Association. We need to understand here that IDA represent the dentists, it does not regulate anybody. Write this out once and you'll never forget about this question ever, forever. Now coming to the conclusion of this topic, if the Dentist Act is the law and Dental Council of India is the regulator, then Indian Dental Association will act like the soul and voice of Indian dentistry. And my goal here is very simple. It's to make public health lighter for you, to make the concepts stick better, and to make sure that you don't feel alone in this subject. You don't need 10 confusing books. You need one clear way of thinking. And once you understand IDA like story, you'll never confuse it again. This is the promise that our books and our YouTube channel or this learning series, this YouTube learning series is also built on. We want you to get some clarity first, then marks. Now let's see an MCQ and a flashcard from this topic. Okay, first, who founded the Indian Dental Association? Answer is Dr. Rafiuddin Ahmed. And let's see an MCQ. Who proposed the candidates for honorary membership? So 1, 10 local branch members, 2, 25 members with 10 central council members, 3, the president, or D, the state branch. Answer is B, 25 members or 10 council members. If you'd like more such MCQs and flashcards, you can go to our app and you'll get everything you'll need over there. If you'd like the video, please do share it with your friends and also subscribe for notifications when any new videos drop. The next topics will be about Dental Council of India. It will be about the Dentist Act. We'll try and understand in a more simple way how dentistry was formed, how it was regulated, who takes care of the dentist as a whole. See you next time then.